Okay.
I was just curious.
I'm such a nerd. It says we're live.
Yeah, just give me one sec and I'll make sure I've got it muted.
Okay.
Um, yay! Okay, we got it. So thank you so much for joining me today. Um, I feel like this has been a long time coming because I think I invited you, I don't know, a couple months ago. It
Yeah,
was kind of one of those things that was scheduled like far in advance. So as it was getting
definitely.
closer, I was just like, oh yay, we're finally doing it. So
Thank you.
welcome and thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I am like so flattered and excited, and yeah, I love what you're doing, and to be a part of it, I just think thank you. I appreciate
Yes. I
it.
could just I could just tell like I probably we connected through I think Violet. I think that
Yeah.
I don't know. I saw you commenting on some of her things and I was like, "Ooh, I like what this girl has to say."
Yeah, and then I watched you and Violet's conscious conversation, and I was like,
Oh
I like
Lord.
what this girl has to say, because I'd known Violet at that point. And then I met you through that, and I was just like, yes, I love what you're doing. I want to stay in touch. I want to see all the different ways that you branch out into the world, which we kind
Yeah.
of touched on before the video started. So
Mhm.
yeah, you were talking about going through and just like you have so many different things on your plate while you're trying to create something and kind of move like out of what you're doing into something new while also being a bit of a nomad. Um,
Mhm.
and that word balance came up. And that is like such a huge thing. And I think that's really even why I said I wasn't ready to do this for a few months.
Mhm.
Because I've really been trying to like really dig into balance in like all aspects of my life. Um, Including like stepping outside of comfort zones, right? Like I knew I wanted to do this, but I also knew I have so much on my plate, which I think from what I heard from you, you can really relate to that. So I think it's very exciting and interesting and brave to do projects like this while you are navigating all of that. What has it been like for you?
Oh my gosh. I sometimes I have a difficult time like forming words and trying to express. I mean, I think it's going to be kind of hard to even describe it in words. Um, it's been very expansive. It's been, just an additional, I wouldn't say a challenge, but um, something that has definitely pushed me outside of my comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
But I kind of, I got this download about
Hmm.
it that I should be doing it. And, I kind of knew like on a soul level, it was something that I wanted to do. And so, I said, okay, let's just do it. And you had mentioned like the first one that I did with Violet. That
Hmm.
seems like years ago now, but
I love that.
like,
Feel it.
a couple months seems like a couple years, whatever. But I just think about, where I was and what I was feeling then and what I was thinking. And oh my gosh, like just so much shifting has taken place since then.
I love it.
It's just crazy. But the whole thing about balance, that's actually one of my words for this year. So my words for
Good.
this year are balance and harmony. So I've been kind of living this lifestyle that's it's very nomadic. I'm kind of, shifting from place to place while finding home in myself and trying to still be grounded as I'm constantly moving, which has been its own lesson.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's kind of like the hero's journey. Um, and I've been kind of discovering more about myself along the way. But what I've been learning over the past year or so is that I do want to have a place that I can be a little bit grounded and have a little bit of roots. Like I definitely have that wanderlust in me where I want to go out and adventure and explore. And I mean, there's so much of the world to experience, right? And I
Yep.
just want to get out there and experience all of it.
Do it.
But at the same time, having the balance, coming back to that, right, of, having a place where I can also come back to where I'm grounded.
I
So,
feel it. Yes, your heart wants a little place just to have for home.
hmm
That's
yeah.
important.
And I wouldn't have really known that for sure unless I had had this experience. So
Mhm.
I've definitely been learning a lot about myself along
Yeah.
the way.
Mhm. It just
Yeah.
plays into everything. Like there's so many wonderful things that we all want to do, that we can do, that you kind of have to, in a way, right? Like fervently pursue, but at the exact same time, not even pursue. Like, right? It's like the idea of having dreams and goals, but also having this balance of flow and letting things come to you. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's it's been one of the most like interesting journeys of my entire life, the last few years of my life, because I've had like injuries that I've had so many surgeries for. I've had like 5 or 6 surgeries in the last 2 years for all different things, and like haven't been able to be employed full time steadily or any of that. And so there's this like balance of pursuing things as I need to, like even pursuing my lawyer right now, not something I want to pursue, but like you need to, but also absolutely, like for me, it's this dance with like fear. Like I cannot allow it in at all, because I've really learned that like in the last few years of my life, which I think a lot of people have learned given the circumstances, like just not even anything more than a gentle push I can't allow, because all of my flow, all of my abundance, safety, everything just is like out the window. So for me, it has been this really like everything has turned into like a dance, a very gentle dance of, like knowing what needs to be pursued, knowing what needs to be done. Like I've been calling it like God's work. I wake up every morning and I feel like there are tasks that I know in my heart and my mind, like those are the things that need to get done that day. And even sometimes God will put other things in my path that come ahead of that, and I still will continue to like finish that one thing before I go to bed. And I usually wake up to these, it's like almost unbelievable but really miraculous blessings. Like I've been cared for by God and by the universe in these last 2 years. If you would have asked like 5 year ago me, would I be okay right now? Would I have a roof over my head? Would I have food to eat? Would I have comforts? Would I have any of that if I couldn't go hit the grind? I was working like 12, 15-hour days before all of this happened. I
Mm-hmm.
would have been like, no, absolutely not. Back then I was waking up with like anxiety attacks and panic attacks every
Mm-hmm.
morning just to like pay my way in the Bay Area. It's so expensive and ridiculous. Which I moved away from there. And then all of like in faith, I just was like, I surrender. I just decided I was done. And I was ready to put my stuff in a storage unit if I needed to. I put in my 30 days, and I just started like starting my morning with prayer and really asking God to like guide me. And ever since then, it's just been this succession of really miracle after miracle, like saying a prayer and then it's answered like within that day, within, all these different ways that I couldn't have manufactured it if I tried, impossible. So, yeah, just really everything that I think about comes back to that really delicate like balance
Mm-hmm.
um of pursuing but not pursuing all at once. I can't really explain it. Like that's probably a really terrible way to say it.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I
But
completely understand what you're saying, and I think it's the yin and the yang, right?
mhm,
Because it's that the pursuit energy is the masculine, and the surrender and allowing and receiving, that's the feminine. And
thank
we
you.
need to have that balance. We keep coming back to that word. I think that's just
Yeah.
going to be the theme of today's show. Um,
Great.
we keep on coming back to that balance because Everybody has both of those energies within them. And we know what happens when we become, dominant in one over the other. And that can not be great, right? If we become too dominant in, let's say, the feminine energy, then maybe nothing ever gets done, right? Whereas if we become too dominant in the masculine energy, we get burnt out. So we do need to have that balance. And that's been, I'd say, over the past couple of years, that's been a huge part of my path because for most of my life, I was masculine driven because I think our whole society is, honestly.
Yeah.
And I actually believe that if I wasn't constantly doing something, or if I didn't have, something to show for myself, that I was failing,
Yeah. I relate to
and
that. I was there too.
it all circles back to like the self-worth. Um, So, yeah, and I think that's still how most of our culture, the American culture anyway, is working and operating right now. So, we've been really having to like relearn and teach ourselves, you know what, like rest is not only okay, it's essential. And self-care is, that's it's not selfish. It's actually really important for your health and your well-being. And we've been having to kind of like learn this new way of living.
What you're saying feels like a warm hug right now, because like how I felt this morning, because everybody's like 222 portal, and I chose this time because I was like, if we're gonna do it in February, why not? Like, let's just choose that day. Like, that's a cool day. I love twos. I'm a Pisces. My birthday's in a few days. Like, let's go twos. But I was feeling really this morning, like, kind of like intimate to my own experience. Like, ooh, I just want to be with me, kind of, right? Like, I was feeling that. I'm on my period, so I was like,
Mm.
ooh, I'm in pain. Oh. So I was like, I'm not the type to not want to show up, but I'm like, I have to be very like genuine to myself for this to get excited, because I wanted to be excited about this, right? So there was some crunchy things that I had to deal with emotionally, which was saying no to one person and yes to another in my family about plans, just because I knew I had to honor like my clearing of the day. And then I was like, okay, like what can I do? And I'm like, cozy. So I have like a velour.
Oh, I love
I have
it.
cozy socks. I have like all my teas and waters and coffees, like everything I could need. I'm like, just, show up for yourself, girl, in a way that you're going to feel like excellent and cozy and happy. And like, that's all you got to do. And so I'm like, yeah, I needed that self-care today. I took a bath with like Epsom salt and bubbles, and
Mm.
like did a couple meditations and stuff before I hopped on here, because it was definitely one of those days where I had to get in on that balance, right? Because it's like, yes, I want the work. Yes, I want to show up, but I don't want to show up in an inauthentic, or like, oh, I'm not feeling good right now, I'm going to have to fake it. Like, I'm not that way. It's very hard for me. So I didn't want to be like on this call, like, I don't feel good today. So I had to like find a way to feel good today. And it happened, and I'm so thankful. And it is that balance, right? Like, that happens, especially when you have your own business, or you're an artist. Like, I'm an artist, so I feel like art is always calling. Like, you could be making art right now, or healing, right? Like, feels like there's always more love and healing to give to the world, but finding that balance, that's something that like came up recently. One of my friends, she'll sometimes send me videos that are like pretty intense, and I used to be a very like adamant, like in the streets, like protesting, like every single thing that I could do, like hoorah, hoorah. And I would do these, things, and I realized like no one's listening. And that's like a really interesting thing that you would have the right to do, right? Is to like protest in that way. Because if you think about it, like if a little kid comes to you and they're like, I want a cookie right now, like you're probably not going to give them a cookie. Like, you probably don't even want to hear about it. You're probably like, ooh, like I don't like that vibe. And I kind of feel like that's what protesting is it's like shouting about things and it's abrasive and like I'm not against it. I like whoever wants to do it. But I'm like more of the girl that's like calling people's jobs, like calling lawyers, calling like the White House, the senator, like things like that, like signing petitions, trying to spread awareness, but like without, I don't know. It's been a really delicate dance because like throughout all these years, I've been very much like I don't like the label, but like a social warrior, you know, like I care.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a humanitarian. Like I
Mm-hmm.
can't turn my eye away from things, but I'm
Right.
kind of the type of person where I really need to like I need some action. Like I need to do something. I need to do something about this. So I don't want to just feel angry about things. So I was curious how you feel about the balance, right? Of like what do you do with the state of the world, right? Of course, we
Mm-hmm.
care. We want to know certain things, but I also don't want it to completely envelop my soul and like drag
Right.
me down into the mire. So, how do you balance things like that?
That's an excellent question. Um, because I've learned that just like what you were saying, if we kind of like throw ourselves in there, we're gonna get burnt out. And then we're not helping anybody. We're not effective. And I kind of had that experience campaigning back in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I got completely burnt out. I got so frustrated with the outcome. And,
Yeah.
then I went through this period of like, I don't even want to like talk about politics with anybody. Like, don't, don't bring it up.
Tender. It gets tender.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's been more of like how, like looking at how can I make impact
Mm-hmm.
in a way that still honors my boundaries, in a way that still makes me feel good.
Yeah.
So, like, I know, for example, like, I'm not the type of person that will be out there protesting. And, like you said, if there's people that really feel they want to do that, that's great. And, I'm probably not going to be the person again that's campaigning and making phone calls because,
Mm-hmm.
I did that.
Yep.
Um, but for me, I guess it's, having these types of conversations, right? And spreading the awareness. Like YouTube is a fantastic platform, right?
Yes.
So anybody can watch this, right? And we can share this with our friends and ask them to share it with their friends, right? Um, so that's one way. And for me, like probably and I was going to ask, I'd like to come back to you with the same question too, but
Yeah.
like, what am I concerned with the most right now is climate change and the way that we are just completely, you know, I mean, there's no easy way to say this. We're destroying our planet,
Yeah. We're
right? Our
disrespecting it and hurting it and using it up.
hmm our mother that gives us life
Yeah.
and that takes care of us, and we're just totally abusing her. So, that's kind of my primary like number one. So what can I do? I can't necessarily affect how what other people do, but I can affect what I do, right?
Yes.
So I can make little changes like not eating meat anymore,
Yeah.
specifically beef. Like that's a big one, recycling, being more minimalist, being really intentional with what I consume and what I purchase. Like there's so many different things that I can do, right? And then I can share it with other people, maybe plant some seeds.
Mm-hmm.
And
Literally.
right, exactly. And that's what the springtime is all about.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I can just be a role model and I can be an example, right? So that living on that level, like that feels good to me because
Yeah.
now I'm empowered. Now I'm standing in my power. I'm not giving any of my power away and I'm doing what I can. So I would love to flip this back on you and know
Yeah.
from you like what is your number one concern right now?
Number one concern, you know, I think I would have to say, similar to you, I think climate change, it needs to be addressed. And I feel like that kind of piggybacks directly into like the world of tech. And I really feel like because they're so intangibly married, but at the same time right now, because of this generation gap, they're somewhat divorced. And I just think that once people actually start utilizing technology and knowledge that we have right now, as of right now, you know, to take better care of the planet, um, I just feel like we're kind of at a crossroads. It's hard to explain, but I feel like we could use technology to become like the Wall-E planet and just totally eradicate and use, or we could actually be honest with ourselves and not greedy and not focused on capitalism and consumption, and realize that we have technology right now that could build a house on its own, that could filter water for however long. There's batteries that were sold to the government that can work for 25 years. Like, this technology exists, but we've been very greedy and very like, my precious, you know, and like
Yeah.
hoarding things away and not being honest about like how we could actually be living on the earth right now. People are like, oh, the Jetsons, that's so far away. The truth is, if we were to utilize the technology that exists, we would be in a very like low waste, low emissions, Jetson-esque kind of world right now. But there's so many people that are still alive, they're older, that are like not wanting to change how they think about things or how they operate their business. Like admitting that like, hey, maybe we should probably replace all oil, plastic, carbon fiber, if I didn't say cotton, like that all should be replaced by hemp products. And it could be. Like one of the first Model T cars was a hemp body, and it was denied. And it wasn't denied for it's not safe enough, it's not effective enough. It was denied because it wasn't playing into the current then and into now dialogue of we should be using steel, we should be using, you know, oil, we should be using all of these products because these good old boys have businesses and they're invested. And it's just, you know, like I really hope that that dies sooner than later, because I mean, most of these people would be very wise to just change their business. Like, oh, this is going to become outdated. I am basically a monopoly of this industry. Let me transition to the other one, which, you know, is happening in some like energy companies. They're creating these huge like solar fields and like transitioning, which it's like I don't think rich people are going to stop being rich, and I don't think that necessarily even needs to happen. I just think people need to make better decisions, you know, like better decisions about what their company is doing to the earth. When it comes to like the idea of being rich, to me it's just kind of like all a joke, because it's literally like we don't even have gold to back money anymore. It's just like a
I know.
concept. Like the concept of being rich, I want everyone to be rich as a concept, as long as they're still
Mm-hmm.
caring, right? Like as long
Mm-hmm.
as we care first before we think about money, I have no issue with money. Um, so it's very interesting. I think that we're at a really interesting point in time right now where there are a lot of, I think the millennials get a really bad name. I think that there are a lot of younger people that really care, that really
Mm-hmm.
are like creating new machines, creating new apps, created like the young guy that was like 19 and created that machine that's cleaning out plastic out of the ocean. Like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
these things are wonderful and they exist. They're just not what you hear about on the news, you know. Watch the Drew Barrymore show. You'll hear about it there. I'm just saying, like, we need more people like applauding the news. I was watching The Christmas Story, the movie, you know, that's like streams on
Mm-hmm.
TBS, like the old school little like Ralphie. And there's a part in the movie where the dad's like talking about something silly that you're like, oh, that's silly. How's that news? And he's like, that's more like somebody won a race in a swimming in a lake or something like that. And the wife's like, that's not news. And he's like, that's more news than like anything else you read in the paper about all these politics and blah, blah, blah. Cause that's kind of all fake. But that guy did swim across an icy river, you know, like more of that. I want more of that in my life. Like the real good stuff.
Absolutely. And just kind of circling back to what you were talking about earlier, why do you think that these companies and individuals are so resistant to making better choices?
Because it's change. I think a lot of folks, whether they grew up with money or not, but I think it's a lot easier to be in this position if you grew up with money, to not have looked in the mirror, really, you know? and to be really all consumed and busy, sometimes you just don't take the time to stop and look in the mirror. But I think ultimately it comes down to that, like people that are afraid to look inward, and because change means looking inward, and there's scary things in there, so like let's just not do that. Like and honestly I feel sad for people like that. Like I pray for all of these like people, because it's just like, you know what, like that's sad. Like that would be, I wouldn't want to be in that position, to be afraid to look inward and to like be afraid of changing and be afraid of being open to other people's ideas and things like that. um that's why it's like I was thinking about this before our chat, and like a little phrase came up, like I definitely am open to having beliefs, but I'm just as open to those beliefs being completely blown out of the water by something
Mhm.
new that makes more sense, you know?
Mhm. And that's a sign of really progressive thinking. Um, I think that, I mean, it doesn't even matter how much money somebody has, they can still be suffering and
Yeah.
completely miserable inside because, you know, the things that they own, like the yachts and the houses and
Hmm.
all these things, like these are just external forms of validation where they're trying to validate themselves. Like they're, searching for love that they
Yep.
can only give themselves by doing exactly what you said, going inside and doing the work.
Like
But
trying to fit in, trying to feel loved, trying
uh-huh.
to, I think that's why like social media works, Facebook works. I think it just plays back onto like when we were all little babies, and like you could like pick your nose and that would be cool, or you could like fart and everybody would be like, oh, like, and everyone was like watching you and like, good job kiddo, like you took your first step. It's like this thing that's in all of us, right, that we want to be loved. Which brings me to a little phrase my friend Tammy Treasure, that's her real name, she says, and she's been telling me this since I was a teenager. She's kind of like an adopted mom. We're all just little babies and we all just want to be loved. And it's just like, nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say she got that one down.
And I feel like when you say you grew up with a lot of money and not as much actual love or affection in the way that you wanted it, like buying the yacht and buying the jet, like that's like a kind of natural succession, but it doesn't make it better. It might be fun. It might be like a cool hobby or something that brings joy. But in terms of, I think, anything like that, it could be a substance, it could be exercising, it could
Hmm.
be anything, if you're doing it to fill a hole, like a void, that the void is
Hmm.
there because there's some like hurt you haven't addressed. Like you could do that until your head pops off, and it's not gonna heal
Yeah,
you.
you can do that until you die. And
Yeah, and
some and
that's
some
that
people do.
balance, right? Is like with all things in life. My dad said that to me as a kid, and I think that is probably one of the best. Like there's certain things I could live by, right? Like a few phrases, and one of them is "be loved now." Like I could live my life by that one phrase, and I feel like I would be okay, and
That
people around me would be okay.
yeah,
You know?
that is so powerful. I just want to like sit with that for a second because that's the same thing that I always try to come back to, in the moments where I'm going into self-criticism or judging myself or others or getting cynical or any of that. I just come back to that every time. Um, and I remember, like, I actually learned this during one of my ayahuasca ceremonies.
It's beautiful.
And I remember I asked the medicine, I said, I just want to know what love feels like. And because I had never really received it in like the true sense of
Yeah,
it. Like I know
like
people
unconditional.
exactly. And I
Hmm.
said, I just want to know what that feels like. And she showed me. And so I always try to come back to that feeling, because every moment, like there's a choice point in every single moment. And we get to decide, do we want to be, um, do we want to be controlled by our fears and our limiting beliefs, or do we want to be in the space of love? Because there's only two things: there's fear and love. That's it. Like it all
Yep.
just boils down to those two things.
Mhm.
Anything can be
Yeah.
driven down to either one.
And the choice. I always say choose your choices. I say it like in
Choose
an obnoxious
choose your choice.
way.
Wait, say that. Wait, say that again.
Choose your choices. You got to sound like you're like from New Jersey and you're yelling at somebody.
I am from New Jersey.
There you go. Choose your choices. Fear, love.
Oh gosh.
But I
Oh
say that
gosh.
because it's like, yes, like each moment, like now has become my best friend. I used to live in the past and be very sad. I used to live in the future and be very
Mm-hmm.
anxious, like severe anxiety. Like I had to go
Oh
to the
yeah.
ER at 2 different times in my life. And like the now is like, now is my best friend. Now is magical. Like anything
Mm-hmm.
can happen right now if you just dig in, right? But the other places are not that magical and they can
No.
even trick you on how you're perceiving your now fully, right? Or not perceiving. So one of my big things that I've been really trying, it's like a self-check as well as like be loved now is dang it, I'm gonna totally lose it. It's gone.
It's
I
okay. You
said
know,
be loved
it'll
now and
come
I
back.
totally lost it. But it'll come back to me.
It'll
Um,
come back.
it'll come
But
back because it's something that I literally have been using like constantly. So I feel like a dork. But I was gonna tell you, like, I meander in my stories, and as I meander, it's like, haha, you're not gonna remember that now. Um,
it'll come back to you.
it
Um,
will. The other
I
thing that I
can.
was mentioning though that like
Mhm,
similar to Be Loved Now, okay, so now it's back to me, is staying in the middle of the road, right? My dad told me that when I was a kid, and I was like, that is like such relevant because it's like a dad, like stay in the middle of the road. He's like, you're gonna veer this way sometimes and you're gonna veer that way, and that's okay. That's how you get to know yourself, but like find your balance, you know, and that has
mhm,
really helped guide me through a lot in my life. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that because it's just like this little phrase that you can stay in the middle of the road, like hear from, you know, wherever. And it really does help. But also in terms of the now, because I remember what I was going to say, is just really remembering that like it's not a have to, it's a get to. Like
mhm,
every single thing, including like doing dishes, running errands, like things that could seem like menial or like, is this worth, you know, it's a get to. Like,
mhm,
so many people have died in the last few years. Like, my Facebook feed is just full of people losing important people to them, like
mhm,
best friends, spouses, mothers, fathers, children. Like, we're losing people, right? So how is this a have to? This is a get to. Like every moment that we have is such a gift. And if you really think of it that way, even if it's something really hard, and I mean, I get to talk about this because I like I've been going through the hardest shit in my life. Like I have to have another knee surgery in a few weeks. Like, but it's a get to. See, I said
mhm,
it. I have to have
mhm.
another surgery. I get to have another surgery. So it's
Yep.
like that for me is like this almost a constant self check, like a really quick one. Like, am I thinking about this like I have to do it, or am I thinking about it like I get to do it? And as soon as I just that quick adjustment, it feels totally different no matter what I'm doing. It just is like instant, like, boop, thank
Oh
you.
yeah, absolutely. And that was another huge gift from the plant medicine for me too, was that shift in my consciousness. And it does, it makes such a huge difference. So I have like a regular gratitude practice now. And
Mm-hmm.
so whether it's when I wake up in the morning or before I go to bed or and it doesn't even have to be a daily thing, but that's kind of one of my checkpoints is coming in. What am I grateful for? And for me, it's a lot of little things. It's like I get to smell things. I get to see the sunset. I get to, look at these beautiful flowers. I get to watch these birds. Like, those are the things. Like, that is life, just having that
Mm-hmm.
life experience. And yes, we have a range of emotions, but like, part of that is we also get to feel like pleasure and we get to feel joy and we get to feel excitement. And we get to feel love. Like that is that is why we're here, I believe, is to just be human and just to have the experience and feel all the things and smell them and see them. And um, that's that's why I think we're here. I mean, there might be some reason that, I guess some people who are attempting enlightenment might,
It
come
all
to a
comes
different
down to
answer,
that.
but
It all comes down to that. Like I know enough about enough religions without any sort of deep digging, but investing a decent amount of time, especially through people that participate, I really just feel like religion is a regional attempt at describing God. And I believe God is love and the purest, most unconditional form of love that there ever was. And enlightenment, raising your vibration, all of those different things, they come back to love and compassion, like every religion. Um,
mhm,
Even religions that might not claim that as their hallmark. I mean, it might be some fragmented form of that, right? But it's like love. Like we're all babies. We all want to be loved. And it's like finding
yeah,
the way how to honor ourselves, love ourselves properly, and then how to also have that love for other people. Like that's like every religion touches on that. And I think the more we complicated it, the more complicated it is. Um, that's why I just am like, be love now. If I can stick to that, I feel like I could go anywhere on this earth with that as my religion, as my mindset, as my mantra, and be okay. Like I could be on my deathbed. And if I can be love, like what, good.
yeah, exactly. I mean, what else is there really? I mean, that's it. That's it. That's okay. We just answered the existential question. What is the meaning of life?
I feel like, yeah. And then all the other things that go along with it. Because I was thinking about this earlier when you were talking about our planet, about Mother Earth, about Gaia, about how beautiful she is. It's like all the other things, all the senses, all the beauty, like that's just extra. And I think about this a lot with our Earth, with a lot of the like the Mars folks, like, I want to go colonize Mars. Like, Mars is very desolate and very like
Hmm.
ugly to me. To some people,
Hmm.
it might seem like the most beautiful thing ever. Even if it looks beautiful, it's not inherently abundant in the way that Earth is. Like, I think like Earth could be literally like monochromatic. We could have like black trees and gray grass and like nothing pretty to look at. And it could have just enough on this planet to sustain us. And it would still be beyond a miracle that it existed. And rather than it being this like mundane, like nothing to smell, nothing to see, not, no exciting tastes, and it's so abundant. It's like a magical playground of colors and senses and experiences. And I just don't think a lot of people really stop to think about how lucky we are as creatures that exist in a universe to have this particular planet. And I'm all for like exploring space and finding other dimensions and other planets. And I am not married to the idea that Earth is the most abundant or beautiful or peaceful or any of that, but it is all of those things. And I just don't think that those are things we should take for granted. I mean, we would have to work so hard to get Mars to the point that Earth is right now, and we're like, Earth is dying. Like, if we think we could regenerate or cultivate this entire like red rock of a planet, but somehow those same people think that Earth is on its way out, it's like balance. There's gotta be a balance there. I really feel like. Uh,
Yeah, and coming back to like the appreciation for what we have, and as my grandmother would say, stop and smell the roses. I feel like people aren't doing that because they're so busy with other things and they're distracting themselves with all these other things and they don't actually stop to just smell the roses, right? And
yeah,
appreciate the little things that we have. And I think also the energies behind the exploration of space and, developing on Mars feels to me like fear.
Yeah.
Like it feels to me
Fear and
like,
greed, like tied together to me.
well, it's not love. So um it feels to me like a lot of fear. Like,
Hmm.
these wealthier people are like, they've got this. Well, I know, like, in particular, like Elon Musk is,
Hmm.
I think he's an INTP or something like that. Anyway, like, he's very intelligent, but he's also very cynical and, or like, a realist. And so, like, for him, he's like, oh gosh, like, look at what we're doing to this planet. We're destroying it. Like, I
Yeah.
gotta get out of here. Like, there's this,
Yeah.
the fear, being driven by
Yeah. Very
fear, and kind of like,
reactionary to,
and this
yeah.
desperation. Whereas, like, I just think about, if we take all the money that we're using for the space exploration and actually, like, invest it into more, like, sustainable renewable energies, like, oh my gosh,
Mhm.
it just
Yeah.
makes no sense to me whatsoever. And
Yeah.
you're
I think
right.
we really need to get like a handle on humanity. What does it mean to be a human? Like infuse a little bit of pride into that, into like how we care for our environment, how we care for our planet, like be proud to be an earthling and understand that yes, there are probably all these other creatures out there, beings, and like are they looking at us, like don't we want to I basically what I'm trying to say is like I would rather step forward with my best foot forward, taking care of our planet, really focusing, like you said, all of that money and innovation and knowledge that we do have that we're kind of like hiding away in the name of capitalism and greed and whatnot, and really dig into that and see what we can do on earth before we're like investing all this money and resources that we don't necessarily have if we don't figure out a more sustainable way to live on earth, right? It becomes like a desperate fleeing attempt, like you said. And I just think that we're better than that. I think that we can do better than that. I really
Yeah,
do.
it's just like, this is just coming in right now. It's like all this inner child, like, core wounding, like, abandonment or whatever it is, just like playing out, like,
Hmm.
bigger scale.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like, I think one of the quickest ways that we're actually going to get there and, like, heal our relationship with the earth is to do the work, and, the personal development and the healing of our emotional traumas that have been stored in our bodies from our lifetimes and our ancestors and the collective and previous lives and all this, right?
Yes.
But it's also, it's also hard work, and it takes a lot of courage to do. And, some
Yeah.
people, for whatever reason, just aren't ready to do that yet. And some people are, a lot of people are. Like, I'm
Yeah. More
seeing,
than ever are.
yeah, like,
Truly.
I don't know about you, but I've noticed a lot more over the past couple years.
Absolutely. I mean, during like the last however many years, I would go on to people's pages that were very like polarizing political figures that had totally different viewpoints than me. And I would find a way to talk to people about love, right? Without people like coming for my throat. And I was able to have all kinds of really interesting conversations that I don't think people were ready to have a few years ago. I think that all of these series of events, it's like if you don't realize racism exists in the way that it does, how do you help fix it? If you don't realize that the climate is an issue, how do you fix it? If you don't realize that, misogyny and rape are something that were just so much a part of Hollywood, how do you fix it? So it's like, yes, there have been a bombardment of, like the pedophile rings throughout the
Hmm.
world, all of these things, like wow, yeah, that's heavy. We found out about a lot of stuff and it felt invasive and just like one after the other. But how do you change any of that if you don't know that it exists? So I feel like there's been a lot of stuff that's happening on the earth, all throughout the earth, and it hasn't necessarily been televised, right? Like I have friends all around the world. So I'm
Hmm.
lucky enough to have a
Hmm.
lot of like Facebook Live videos and feeds during all these different protests. I mean, for a fact, there have been more protests on this earth about people being like equal rights, climate change, women's rights than ever in history in the last 10 years. And I really feel like that's why a lot of the, older folks with money and, fearing change are really pulling out all the shots, the stops, whatever that phrase is right now. They're really like clinging, like, what else can I do to control these people? They're waking up, because it's happening and there's no stopping it. Like,
there's no stopping it. Oh,
there's
no.
no stopping it. They can cling if they want, but honestly, I pray for those people because it's like, hey, hop over the fence. It's nice over here.
Yeah,
Like,
cross the bridge. Come
you
over
can
here
come
where it's nice.
too. You don't have to cling to your fear. You can come jump into this like cozy little dome of love,
Right?
and float down the river of tranquility, because I think it really comes down to like what you were saying also with the reaction is it's like destruction or creation also. That's a huge duality that I feel like for a while we were all about like, let's create industrial revolution, and then once it hit a certain kind of plateau, it became more about destruction, right? And I just really wish that the people with more wealth and abundance would kind of do a little self-check and look, am I more into destruction right now in my life, or am I more into creation? Because it's like, the thing I think of is like, we have like a 4-year-old who built a Lego tower, took 5 weeks, and then like the other 4-year-old comes along and is like, hey, kicks it over, and gets like a little high from it. And like I feel like people in power that have kind of gone on that road where they're kicking over towers, they're getting highs from it, but it flees. It's very fleeting, right? Whereas if they were to start creating things, when you create things, it gives back to you. There's this abundance, this cycle that continues happening that actually is a little more fulfilling than just like knocking something over and walking away. And I just really like, I pray for like the Trumps and the Bidens and the Canadian, like the Trudeaus, whoever is in charge of shit right now, the Zuckerbergs, like, I pray for all of these people that they can really just kind of get more in on the like the love and the creation and like this sort of vibe, because I do think that like I think that there could be more of a utopian society than what we have right now on this earth. Like, I think it's
Absolutely. No,
available, I
there's
think it's
no
possible.
question.
Yeah, and I think that the more creative you are, like the more you can tap into it. And a lot of people are like, but this system has been here for so long, and like that song drives me freaking crazy. That's just the way it is. I'm like, shh, no more of that. I will not. Enough of that. Because you know what? The only constant is change. And for every system that's in place that feels oppressive, there's hope in that, because it's literally a system that can be eradicated and rebuilt, or, converted to work a different way or whatever. Like, there's room to work in that.
Absolutely. And I'm feeling like, and I've talked to a lot of my friends and other people about this, but there's certain people right now that are really being called to like step up and step forward and really just claim who they are and actually live authentically and live out their mission and just, step up. And it's scary because we've been, we've been, well, if you look at history, like people have been basically killed for doing things like that.
Yeah.
But I think now is different. And I think now is the time. And it's like, it's time for people to do that. So if anybody's watching this and you're kind of like hesitant or you're on the fence, like, it's freaking time. Like, it's time for you to do what you're supposed to do. And you know what it is.
The truth is, like, we're all going to die anyways. And like,
well,
for me,
that's
I would rather
debatable.
die in my truth than my power. This is a big one for me. Like, this, I was thinking about this earlier when it comes to like, actually like warrior gene, like enacting like in the streets. Like, I've lived in a lot of really bad neighborhoods in my life, like in Oakland and Brooklyn, bad neighborhoods, but I lived there and I love those neighborhoods. And when I like see something wrong, including violence, like I will step in. Like, I have intercepted many a violent interaction between two people on the street, mostly because I didn't want them to go to jail or get shot by the police, or like I'm like, you don't even like this person. Why are you risking your freedom for them by doing this? Like, let's not, you know? Um, and I just like personally for me, whether it was by doing that or by saying my truth in this video, like if I was to get like taken out in the street, be like, you said too much truth. I really would rather go that way than just like laying on a bed dying of cancer, knowing that I never said what I believed in or stuck up
Yep.
for somebody who was being violently attacked or any of that. Like I mean, and I know that I'm different than a lot of people, and I don't think that everyone's just going to suddenly wake up and be this way. Like this is just how I've been my whole life, but I do really believe in it. Like I believe in sticking up for people around me. I believe in putting my neck out. I believe in standing up. And I would really rather like I would rather die taking a bullet knowing that I tried to save somebody's life than to walk away and live and that other person dies. Like, I don't know. I'm just
Yeah.
kind of like that. And that you could take that metaphorically, you could take it literally. That's just, I don't know. I really care about people. And I think that there's so much more love and safety available than what's being like broadcasted to a large spectrum of humanity. And I want people to feel loved and safe, you know, if I can have anything to do with it.
Oh my
I hope
gosh,
that
my ears are ringing so loud right now. I mean, I think that's beautiful that because you're showing up and you're being true to yourself. And I just imagine like, what if everybody did that? How different a world will we have, you know,
yeah,
whatever
and I
that
mean
looks
I
like.
really don't have to go around like trying to like find these kinds of situations. Like life puts you there, you know. And I saw plenty of other people in these scenarios that were literally looking down or looking at their phone or walking away.
Hmm.
And it's just like, but those same people would probably hope somebody would help them, right? Like if they needed
Hmm.
help. So how does
So,
that?
yeah, sometimes all it takes, and I know this helped me a lot, was, it just took one person actually believing in me, and saying something to me like, you know who you are, right? And it just took that one person. Like that was it. And sometimes that's all it takes is just the one person to believe in somebody or just to listen to them or hold space for them, right?
It's so real. It's so true. It
Yeah.
seriously is. And I just think that it's a way to live, right? If you're being loved now, love presents itself in so many different ways. I saw a meme last night that was like, sometimes it's not all about love. Sometimes it's about having healthy boundaries and holding space and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that is all love. Everything that you just named is what unconditional love is.
Yes, that's
So,
exactly what love is.
yeah. So I think it's like that step where like some of us, we really like, we haven't seen love in that way, right? Like that isn't what love seems like to us because we've seen this like toxic, like overbearing, like me, now, 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 which isn't really love, right? So yeah, be love now. That's my self check.
I love it. I love it so much. Oh gosh. Oh, this has been such a fun conversation.
It really has.
I've enjoyed this so much. This has been
Me too.
awesome. Um, so tell us a little bit more about you and what you do, or maybe what you're
Okay.
working on, or maybe
Yeah.
if you have anything you want to talk about or offer. Yeah, just share
So
that with us.
sweet. So yeah, I have been like doing some new stuff that I guess it's not new and that it's work I've been doing my entire life, but it's new and that I'm actually like advertising that I'm doing this work and I'm now accepting donations and, you know, abundance for this work versus just kind of going out in the world and doing it without that, which in the past, yes, I've received pay for like managing my friend for a while, like helping her organize. So basically, I was like, what do I call this? You know, am I a life doula? Am I a death doula? Am I a declutterer? Am I a life coach? So I just came up with soul coaching because I feel like
Mm,
all of those things are so inherently connected. Um, I really believe in helping people, as you know probably after this conversation. So I've just done a lot of work in the past with helping people through body issues, helping people through decluttering and like pest issues in their home, helping people through different kinds of transitions, helping people, move out of addiction into like healthy living. Just like a lot of essentially like what's on your plate. I want to help you with it. Let's make a plan kind of thing. So I've been starting to advertise that a bit. I also do rune and tarot readings.
Oh, how fun.
And yeah, and I don't really tell people this a lot, but I actually am a musician also. So
Oh,
I did a
really?
project last year. It's on iTunes and Spotify. If you look up Ona Jane, I did a collaboration with Violet actually last summer, and then
Oh,
there's music from prior to that. So I make music, and then I've also been getting more into like painting and digital art, and I will be selling all of that stuff on my Etsy store that I have now, but I haven't really advertised it yet because I need to get it stocked up. So that's kind of what I'm moving forward with right now. Who knows what other projects. Oh, and then there is also a children's book in the works. It was going to be a collaboration, but the gentleman like has not hit me back, and I have the idea now. So I think I might just
run with it.
go forward on my own.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, because it's a children's book about essentially like inclusion on all realms of inclusion, like race, disability, mental illness, all of that.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. I love that. And I love soul coaching. Like that covers pretty much everything. And
Yeah.
I was actually having a conversation with someone earlier today, and they were talking about all these different, it was going to be like more integrative and holistic what they were going to offer. And they're like, yeah, I just don't really know like what to
If
go
they
with.
want
And
to
I'm
use
like,
Soul Coach, tell them about it. I'm fine with that because I feel
well,
like
I
it makes
said,
sense.
well, I said it wasn't so much about like, I guess the label, but they were trying to choose like, well, what areas should they focus on? I'm like,
Yeah.
do all of it. Like
Yeah.
we're multidimensional. Like
Uh-huh.
basically what I'm hearing you say is you can like help anybody pretty much.
I've helped a lot of people, and I've realized, in like a business sense and emotional, physical, like so many different ways, like that are
hmm
actually measurable over time. I've helped a lot of people, and
Yeah, same.
I I think I want to do that more, and like focus
Yes.
on that and make that my primary focus instead of doing it as I'm moving through other like
Right.
inner world modalities and whatnot that I'm just not into anymore. I'm not, I don't want
Yeah,
to go back to like a regular job. Like I
I
really
know.
I want to help people as much as I can. And I know that I've been doing it inherently through all these other things. But I just know like focus on that fully, and then the people that need you are gonna show up.
hmm And they're out there just kind of waiting to connect with you. So yeah, maybe they'll be watching this. Who knows? So I'll get all your links that I can put in the description. But if somebody did want to, get in touch with you for whatever reason,
Uh-huh.
what's the best way for them to do that?
You can hit me up at like my Facebook page, which is Ona
Mhm.
Jane. I do have like a web page which is for my music, which is www.onajane.com. But if somebody
Mhm.
were to just like forget whatever or that's like an easy link. I mean, those are the easiest ways. Like I check my messenger very often because of all the other projects that I'm working on. So that's like I feel like the easiest centralized way, that or an email. And then I gotcha.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah,
Well, it's been such a pleasure having you on the channel. I can't thank you
me
enough.
too.
Oh my gosh, this has been so nice. And I feel like perfect timing. I mean, like literally 2022 on a Tuesday at
I
2
know, the
p.m.
Tuesday.
MST.
That part makes it just
I was
like
like,
so cute. Tuesday.
I know, on a Tuesday. It's just like
I
so
love it.
perfect. And I feel like this is energetically just a very powerful day.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
so for manifesting, we're activating, we're bringing in more balance into your
Yes.
life. So
Every now is a gift.
that's right. Well, I've enjoyed this so much. Thank you again.
Thank
Um,
you. Sending
it's been
you
great
love.
having you. I love you. I love you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, to everybody watching,